Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. Chapter 7. The author leaves Lagado, arrives at Maldonada. No ship ready, he takes a short voyage to Glubbdubdrib. His reception by the governor. The continent, of which this kingdom is a part, extends itself, as I've reason to believe, eastward to the unknown track of America, westward of California, and north to the Pacific Ocean, which is not above 150 miles from Lagado, where there is a good port in much commerce with the great island of Lugnag, situated to the northwest of about 29 degrees north latitude and 140 degrees longitude. This island of Lugnag stands south-eastward of Japan, and about 100 leagues distant. There is a strict alliance between the Japanese emperor and the king of Lugnag, which affords frequent opportunities of sailing from one island to another. I determined, therefore, to direct my course this land to the other, in this way, in order to my return to Europe. I hired 2 mules with a guide to shew me the way, and carry my small baggage. I took leave of my noble protector, who had shewn me so much favour, and made me a generous present at my departure. My journey was without any accident or adventure worth relating. When I, ro- when I arrived at the port of Maldonada, for so it is called, there was no ship in the harbour bound for Lugnag, nor like to be in some time. The town is about as large as Portsmouth. I soon fell into some acquaintance, and that was very hospitably received. A gentleman of distinction said to me that since the ships bound for Lugna could be not ready in less than a month, it might be no disagreeable amusement to me to take a trip a little island of Glubbdubdrib, about 5 leagues off, into the southwest. He offered himself and a friend to accompany me, and I should be provided with a small bark for the voyage. Glubbdubdrib, as nearly as I can interpret the word, signifies the island of sorcerers or magicians. It is about 1/3 as large as the Isle of Wight, and extremely fruitful. It is governed by the head of a certain tribe, who are all magicians. This tribe marries only among each other, and the eldest in succession is the prince, or governor. He hath a noble palace and a park of about 3,000 acres, surrounded by a wall or hewstone 20 foot high. In this park there are several smaller enclosures for cattle, corn, and gardening. The governor and his family are served and attended by domestics of kind somewhat unusual. By his skill in necromancy he hath a power of calling whom he pleaseth from the dead, and commanding their service for 24 hours, but no longer. Nor can he call the same person up again in less than 3 months, except upon very extraordinary occasions. When we arrived at the island, which was about 11 in the morning, one of the gentlemen who accompanied me went to the governor and desired admittance for a stranger who came on purpose to have honour of attending on his highness. This was immediately granted, and we three entered the gate of the palace, with between rows of guards, armed and dressed in a very antic manner. And something in their countenance made my flesh creep with a horror I cannot express. We passed through several apartments, and between servants of the same sort, ranked on each side as before, till we came to the chamber of presence, where, after 3 profound obeisances and a few general questions, We were permitted to sit on the three stools near the lowest step of His Highness's throne. He understood the language of Balnibarbi, although it were different from that of his island. He desired me to give him some account of my travels, and to let me see that I should be treated without ceremony. He dismissed all his attendants with a turn of a finger, which to my great astonishment they vanished in an instant, like a vision in a dream. And when we were awake on a sudden, I could not recover myself in some time, till the governor assured me that I should receive no hurt, observing my two companions to be under no concern, who had been often entertained in the same manner. I began to take courage, and relate to his Highness a short story of my several adventures, yet not without some hesitation, and frequently looking behind me to the place that I had seen those domestic spectres. I had the honour to dine with the governor, and where a new set of ghosts served up the meat, and waited at table. I now observed myself to be less terrified than I had been in the morning. I stayed till sunset, but humbly desired his Highness to excuse me for not accepting his invitation of lodging in the palace. My two friends and I laid at a private house in the town adjoining, which is the capital of the little island, and the next morning we returned to pay our duty to the governor, and as he was pleased to command us. After this manner we continued in the island for 10 days, most part of the day with the governor, and the night at our lodging. I grew so familiarized to the sight of spirits that after the third or fourth time they gave me no emotions at all, or if I had any apprehensions left, my curiosity prevailed over them. For his Highness the Governor ordered me to call up whatever persons I would choose to name, in whatever number among all the dead from the beginning of the world, to present time, and command them to answer any questions I should think fit to ask. With this condition, the questions must be confined within the compass of the times they live in. In the one thing I might depend on, that they would certainly tell me truth, for lying was a talent of no use in the lower world. I made my humble acknowledgments to his Highness for so great a favour. We were in the chamber, for whence there was a fair prospect into the park, and because my first inclination was to be entertained with the scenes of pomp and magnificence, I desired to see Alexander the Great, and the head of his army just after the battle of Arbela, whereupon a motion of the governor's finger immediately appeared in the large field, under a window where we stood. Alexander was called up into the room. It was with great difficulty that I understood his Greek, but had little of my own. He assured me upon his honour that he was not poisoned, but died of a fever by excessive drinking. Next I saw Hannibal passing the Alps, who told me he had not a drop of vinegar in his camps. I saw Caesar and Pompey at the head of their troops just ready to engage. I saw the former in his last triumph. I desired that the Senate of Rome might appear before me in one large chamber, and a modern representative. In counter-view, in another, the first seemed to be an assembly of heroes and demigods, India, the other a knot of pellers, pickpockets, highwaymen, and bullies. The governor, at my request, gave the sign for Caesar and Brutus to advance towards us. I was struck with profound veneration at the sight of Brutus. I could easily discover the most consummate virtue and intrepidity, the firmness of mind, and the true love of his country, and the general benevolence for mankind in every lineament of his countenance. I observed with much pleasure that these two persons were in good intelligence with each other, and Caesar freely confessed to me that the greatest actions of his own life were not equal by many degrees to the glory of taking it away. I had the honour to have much of a conversation with Brutus, and that I was told that his ancestor Junius, Socrates, Epaminondas, Cato the Younger, and Sir Thomas More and himself were perpetually together in the sextum vermate, where all ages cannot add a seventh. It would be tedious to trouble the reader with relating what vast numbers of illustrious people were called up. To gratify an insatiable desire I had to see the world in every period of antiquity placed before me. I chiefly fed my eyes with beholding in the destroyers of tyrants and usurpers, and the restorers of liberty to oppressed and injured nations. But it is impossible to express the satisfaction I received in my own mind, and after such a manner as to make it a suitable entertainment to the reader.